Hey legends, welcome to episode 4 of Harder to Kill, where Coach Michael Stuart and I teach you guys every week how to demand more and more out of your bodies and essentially become harder to kill. So the last couple of weeks we've covered a few different topics, and this week we're talking all about recovery. Mick, how are you, man?
Mate, feeling recovered. I had a nice little nap before this, so good.
Excellent. Mate, where would you like to start the chat today talking about recovery? We might just wait a few seconds, let some people jump on, but what's the general scope of the chat going to be today?
Well, with recovery, I thought we'll talk about what we're recovering from, what's happening to the body and stuff like that, but also the different levels of recovery and how you use certain things. Because I know when a lot of people think recovery, they think, stretching and nutrition. But there's so many more ways of accelerating that. There's so many things that they're not doing that'll help them recover. So I thought we could hit on basically the different levels of it as well, and how to implement some of them. If you've got say a big Spartan weekend, or if you've got a few a multi-day series race of every weekend coming up for a month, how are you going?
Cool. All right. Yeah. Well, we'll get into it. We do have a couple of people jumping online. If you are watching, guys, give us a hashtag live, or if you are coming through watching a replay later, give us a hashtag replay, just like Corey has done. Dora is here as well. Hey. Donna's here too. Donna hit an adventure race with me yesterday, so she's probably going to benefit from some of these recovery tips. And if you guys do want to engage with us, if you guys want to ask a question or you just want to show some love, log in at the link in the comments or in the description of this video. It's fact.believe.tv/comments. And when you log into the software, we'll be able to bring you pretty picture on screen. So make sure you do that. And just tell us if you're here. Dom's here as well. Comments are starting to roll through now. So definitely let us know you're here, guys. Don't be a creeper. Unless you just like being creepy. Nick's turning his aircon on.
Yeah, it's getting too warm in now.
Heaps Verbal live. Yeah, it's a nice warm day, man. I just shot down to where we're doing the Spartan Boot Camp. The Spartan Boot Camp series is a 3-event series leading up to the GC event. I was just down there firming it up with Sam, and I just jumped on the motorbike in shorts and a t-shirt today. It's beautiful up here. It's warm.
Nice.
All right, so where do you want to kick it off, Miko? Where do you want to start?
Well, let's talk about what recovery is first. Let's start with recovery. Why do you need recovery? Why can't we just continually keep bashing it through like robots or David Goggins and stuff like that? So recovery is a part of us. Being a human biological thing, we are causing our body to stress when we do things. This can be your training, this can be your work, this can be an event, it's like a Spartan race and stuff like that. What's happening to the body is it's more than just, everyone knows the whole when you train or when you stress the body physically, it can cause micro tears in the muscle which need to be repaired, which everyone talks about protein, stuff like that. But there's so many other levels in your recovery that people might not be hitting. Now you've got your structural. So you've actually got your bones. Your bones, your whole structure needs a way to recover as well. You got to remember that we're constantly standing most of the time, or we're sitting, but there's gravity always pushing down. So that is causing our body to be under actual physical stress. Mm-hmm. Not to mention with COVID and some of us being inside a little more, we might be putting on a few extra kilos, which is causing us to develop a bit more stress on the joints. Then you've got your central nervous system. Now, this recovery is something a lot of people don't think about too much. I mean, they do now with the whole HRV and the Whoop devices and all that sort of stuff. But this is the part that really people are very under-recovered on a regular basis and don't realize it till they've hit that basically wall where they're just overwhelmed and hit that, and literally hit that physical wall. We just bang, we cannot do anything. I don't know. So to start off, let's go for some structural recovery. Now, as I was saying, structural recovery is your joints. Now, when we're doing Spartan races, we're running, we're jumping. Sometimes you're you're going lateral, side to side, depending on the terrain as well. It can be, you can take a lot of beatings, especially like if you're doing Bright or Springbrook and stuff like that up at the Gold Coast running down hills. That is a lot of force on, which is causing a lot of compression in your joints. And in between our joints is some little cartilage fibers and stuff like that actually help us have some cushioning. But as they get a little more bashed in, they get a little more squashed over time. This is where, like, one of the better people you want to start to inversions. That is a really great way. And you said have you ever done an inversion? I'm pretty sure you've done some inversion, haven't you?
Man, I had an inversion table, and we got rid of it when we moved up to the GC from Sydney. But it was basically a table that you just strapped yourself into and then sort of held and it flipped you upside down. But I do a lot of handstands and a lot of headstands and stuff like that during doing some yoga stuff. I sort of play around with a lot of handstands, and often if I know that I've got a little bit of inflammation in my legs after an event, I'll just go and lay sort of against the wall. So I'll just put my bum up against the wall with my feet up on the wall and just sit there for a while and play on my phone and just sort of let the fluid sort of drain out of my legs. So yeah, definitely do a few inversions.
Yeah, and that's a great. And again, that's another side of recovery people might not realize is right there. You're manipulating the lymphatic system and also your circulatory system by putting your feet up, so you're actually helping the blood flow a lot better. And that, which is a really great one for arthritis. But one thing I love about the inversions is it's actually the spine we're trying to release. Now you can get these with some foam rolling, some cracking and stuff like that. But personally, nothing beats getting upside down and just hanging.
Yeah, which I think if you're going for that sort of angle, that's where the inversion table is really good, because you strapped your feet into it and you're sort of hanging from your ankles, so it's creating space between those vertebrae, right? Whereas in a handstand or a headstand, you still have gravity working on your body. So one thing people might not realize is there's another one you can do which is really good, and that's just actually hanging from a bar. Like actually doing you just did your pull-up video for the Spartans this week. I actually just sharpened up my feet again. It was really, always like watching them. But yeah, just hanging there is one of the best ways to actually controlled ways of getting a nice little length in the spine, because let's face it, most of us are runners, well, especially you and me, we got some big butts, so they're really good to help drag us down a bit more and help lengthen those spines. And it also helps work on that grip strength. So it's like a twofer. So that could fall under the whole active recovery sort of stuff if you liked. We were talking about this. We were talking about this from Ross Edgley's book, I believe. We were talking about art of resilience and how he dead hangs for shoulder strength and for shoulder health. And there's a guy called Ido Portal over in Israel who's just an amazing movement specialist, and he swears by getting people to dead hang for like 7 minutes a day, just as a health tool to sort of realign your shoulder. I've actually got this book that Ross Edgley recommended in one of his books that I need to read. It's basically all about this. So it's all about how you can hang for shoulder health. So I'll let you know once I've read it that it's on the list. But yeah, it's definitely a really good recovery tool, especially for your shoulders, especially for your back, is hanging.
Yeah.
So why do we need to recover though, Mick? You know, what's happening when we're putting our bodies under stress?
Well, we're basically breaking down our body. And when we are causing our body to be under stress, it is actually causing chemical reactions, depending on what level of stress it is. So physical stress is basically, that's where you get the inflammation coming in and stuff like that. Circulatory system, blood starts supporting, going to where there's tears in the muscle fiber, or if you've done a real bit of stress and the joints start flaring up because basically they need to repair. But it's biological. Because we are causing stress, we are breaking down every part of our body. This is why the famous thing about CrossFit is the whole rhabdomyolysis, where you break down the muscle so badly that it actually goes into your kidneys and stuff like that, and then you basically start peeing coke.
Yeah,
And
you end up
that's how
too much acid in your system, too much lactic acid in your blood.
Yeah. And so this is where this is why we need to recover, and this can actually make or break your performance and your training, because it's never how much the stimulus you're putting yourself under. It's how much it's how much recovery. I hate the term overtraining. I always look at it as under recovery.
Yeah.
Because people like, you look at these CrossFitters and stuff like that. Their training is a full-time job. They're doing like nearly 8 hours a day of grinding. And any strength and con material you read prior to before we start a CrossFit will explain this is like terrible. You're going to just overtrain and completely bonk out. But with them doing that, they've also now gone into this whole other way of making recovery just as important, or actually, if not more.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
So you'll see them doing stretching, mobility, all that sort of things.
Yeah, and the world's sort of changed a little bit. Professional athletes can be professional athletes, and they do have, they can afford to sit around for 3 hours a day recovering, because performance is their job. Whereas, in the past, people might not have had the time to invest as much into recovery. So as a result, people can now train harder and longer because they can recover better, which is a big thing.
Absolutely.
Sorry to cut in there, man. I'm just
I love it. That's right. That's great. Yeah, that's all good. Yeah, and so you're exactly right. Now that they can be a professional athlete, but even their recovery protocols, they're even more religious now than their training. You'll see some of them, like Matt Fraser. He's known as the best so far, currently 4 times, going for the 5th to be overall champion. He even says has his training, which is like hit these elements, chuck in a few extra metcons for some funsies, or if he wants to see something cool. But it's his stretching protocols: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all these certain things. And then on Sunday, put on the office and just hit a roller, foam gun, complex, which is like a TENS machine and stuff like that. And that's the thing about recovery. But the problem with it is it's great for him. But we need to try and do it for us, where we have jobs, places we got to be throughout the day. So you're trying to recover as yourself. You've just done an event, and then you're trying to now get some recovery. You got an active recovery, which is cool. Mm-hmm. What'd you do for your active recovery?
So I had an adventure race yesterday, so 6-hour adventure race. We're out mountain biking, running, kayaking. Some stuff that I haven't done for a little while, so my legs copped a bit of a beating. And today woke up with a little bit of muscle soreness in my legs. So I just got out for some active recovery this morning. Walked over to the coffee shop, had my Vibrams, my barefoot shoes on, the 5 fingers. Got a coffee and just went for like a 2 or 3K walk, just to get a bit of blood moving, get some of the lactates moving around in the legs, and you just feel way better. And I'm big on active recovery, and it's always something that after big events, like I don't usually need it after small events, but if I do something like an enduro or like yesterday's 6-hour event and first one for a while, or a huge hike, or any other really, really big event, you tend to get out of bed and you don't feel excellent, and you'll sit around for hours not feeling excellent, and then you're like, fuck it, I'm going to go and do some active recovery, and you feel amazing after it, and you're like, why didn't I do that 6 hours ago? So this morning it was the first thing I did was go for a walk, but I feel great now. Active recovery, to I guess clarify, is something that you would normally do at a lower intensity. So people say, oh, yoga is good active recovery, but if you don't do yoga, yoga's not active recovery. If you do yoga regularly and then you do yoga at a lower intensity, that's excellent active recovery. But yeah, that sort of would be the clarification there. Get the muscles moving.
Yeah, that's what I like. I like to tell people it's got to be at your lowest intensity, because a lot of people, especially like with the functional fitness community and stuff like that, they're going, oh, I'm just going to go for a 10K bike ride on the erg machine or something like this, holding maybe just a little less than my normal pace. That's my active recovery. It's like, no, That's not active recovery. That's causing
another
stress.
workout.
Yes. Whereas, as you said, you went for your walk, you chilled, it was relaxing, and that's the central nervous system side as well, where like the walk is great because, again, and especially using the Vibrams and stuff, it was great because you're walking, you're moving the muscles, it's creating circulation, which is actually getting your blood to circulate through the legs a bit better, which is going to help relieve DOM tension and stuff, the build up of toxins in there, which causes those delayed onset muscle soreness or DOMs.
Yeah.
But
Anyone who's
that's a good thing.
Toilet after a leg day knows about DOMs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah, with all that, that's good. But it also hits on the central nervous system for you because I know you do your nasal breathing, so you were probably chilling out, nice and comfy, breathing through it. And this is the part that people very get neglected on is the CNS, the central nervous system, basically the thing that gets you going.
Yeah.
Right.
And just before you get into that, Mick, we've just got a heap of questions rolling in. So talking about inflammation, different recovery operants and cryotherapy. Nobody's logging in. So if you're going to ask questions, guys, if we're going to bring them on screen, I need you to go into either this comment here, click on that link there, log in to be live, and then just re-ask the question, or in the description of the video. So we definitely want to know who we're talking to. So if you're going to ask questions, we just need you to log in so that we can bring you on screen, so we can see who you are, so that we don't have the questions looking like that. So we definitely want to know who we're talking to. All right. So CNS, let's roll.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say, do you want to answer a couple of those questions if you're on? Right?
No, we'll see who complies first. if they don't comply, we'll get some.
Okay. Yeah, well, the CNS, basically central nervous system, this is where the whole Whoop thing is really good for. I will give it that. And your Aura Ring, where it lets your body know by how your heart rate's going, your temperature. These things control everything. It's basically the electrical pathways of what signals are going to create. Otherwise, if you're going through your mind saying, I want to move my finger, next thing you know, you're moving your toe, there's a wiring problem. So the central nervous system is everything. You can't do shit without it. Problem with it is every little thought goes through this, every little signal goes. So just like every other part of the body, it needs a bit of a break. Now, it doesn't mean a bit of a break that it needs to shut off, because that only happens when we're dead. Okay? Or if you're watching a really boring romantic com, as my wife will tell you, I'd switch off. Yeah. But so the thing with the central nervous system is when we're trying to recover, and when we talk about the nutrition side of it, this will play into it as well. We might be trying to tell our body to do one thing when it's still in a whole different state. Now, as we talked about before in the first one with breathing and everything, or the second one actually, I think it was, you've got your two states, your fight and flight, and then your rest and digest.
Yeah.
With our rest and digest, that's where we want to be for the recovery side of things. But the problem with us, most of us, is we're not in that thing. So when we're constantly staying in that fight and flight, our body's producing adrenaline, cortisol, all these things on a continual basis. Just like any other fuel, like you even talk fossil fuels and stuff like that, they're talking about running out. Our cortisol levels, our adrenal system is going to run out, and that's where you hit that big bonk or adrenal fatigue, which is the new popular stuff to be saying.
Yeah.
So this is where you got to get that central nervous system going. Yoga is really good because it actually stops you and breathes.
Definitely. This is tying into a question that did come in. Thoughts on down-regulation of the conscious, subconscious mind to help you recover. Things like attending to the vagus nerve, tone, using float tanks, minimal stimulus, meditation, breath work. This is all stuff we've sort of covered in previous episodes, and exactly what you're talking about here. If you're staying in fight or flight, if you're not down-regulating after, you're not going to stimulate your body's repair systems. You're not going to tell the body that it's okay to stop and focus on the things that are damaged. You're just always in this heightened fucking ready state, which is not good.
Yeah, and they're great. Like float tanks are really good. Have you done a float tank before?
Yeah, it was boring.
I loved it. It's one of the things I do miss about not being in Brisbane anymore. I used to do a nice little So for me, my protocol was I would do once a week, I would have a sauna. I'd hit the sauna, so I'm getting my body into some, which is releasing all toxins, infrared sauna and stuff like that, getting a good sweat on, but in a controlled breathing state for myself, chilling out. And then I'd go straight into a float tank because my pores were all opened up. Those Epsom salts in there, which are really, and magnesium, which are really great for recovery, are getting basically pumped into my body. But I meant 2 hours of just breathing. Now, those two environments can still be counterproductive if you're quite heightened in them. So people that take their phones, watching iTunes and all that sort of stuff, and being still quite might physically be relaxing, but mentally be quite alert. And so then they're going to get some recovery, but it's not going to be a maximal. It's not going to be the maximum recovery you can get. And again, with the float tanks, some people have that. I love the float tanks. I love hearing people do float tanks because someone just like yourself, just fucking boring. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't, and some people just can't switch off. Yeah. And some people I know go, I died. I just went in there, and next thing I know, it was time out. I was like, yeah. And that's a good idea. Yeah.
Took me a long time when I started getting into yoga. At first, it was very, very difficult for me to downregulate and get out of that fight or flight. And I'd sit in these positions in yoga thinking like, fucking, can this hurry up? I've got shit to do. And it took me a while before I realized that leaving the phone and taking the watch off and going into that room for an hour would, I could leave all that behind and really focus on calming down and downregulating, especially doing something like yin or something like that. But it takes a while. It takes a while to learn how to do that. Like I'm ADD to fuck, man. So like I've got like monkey with symbols in my head the whole time. So it took a long time to learn how to chill. But once you do, it takes you to the next level.
Yeah, and it does, and that's great. And this is where, like, as again, both temperatures and stuff also play a really good part in recovery. And I've seen a few questions here asking about the whole cryotherapy stuff as recovery.
Yeah, Gary Barnett asked about cryotherapy. So what did he say? I've been looking at different recovery options. Have you tried cryotherapy? So what do you think? Thoughts? Mick, you're definitely a team ice bath.
I like you. Yeah, I love my cold. More of a fan of an ice bath. Just because one, have you seen how much they charge you for just like 3 minutes of cryo as well?
Yeah.
It's a very expensive process. I mean, some people rave about it. Me, I found it boring. Like, it gets cold, but because you covered your hands up and stuff like that, you're not feeling the cold, so you get the benefits of it, but it's going to sound a little dicky, but you don't earn the rights for it, personally. This is where I like an ice bath or cold showers, because you've got to put yourself in that state. One, you get to stay longer than just 3 minutes. You can go up to like 15 minutes if you're where your tolerance levels is. But because you've actually got to center yourself into it, you've actually got to put your mind into the fact you're getting into an ice bath, you're more present with it. So you actually get more benefits of trying to control your breathing, which then has a lot more benefits on a hormonal level because your body starts releasing those cold shock proteins and stuff like that. Because it's now trying to keep itself warm, it's a redirection of blood flow. So it actually gets to train the body in almost like an active recovery state by the fact you're doing a nice cold, something that's cold that's external. And then also, as a cryo, really quick, but the ice bath also can help you go further on into your training as well when it comes to colder seasons and stuff, and performance in cold events.
Yeah, I think they're both going to do. They're both going to do very similar things, but I think you're going to get more out of an ice bath. Like, I think cryo is great for reducing inflammation, and same as ice baths, which is a big part of getting inflammation out of your muscles, which is DOMS basically. But if you're getting into an ice bath and you're struggling to stay in there and you're working on building how long you can stay in there, you're building your mental resilience, you're building that brain-body connection, and you're mastering control over your body. It's, which you're not going to get any of that from cryo. So I think, I'm with Nick. Gary, save your money, jump in an ice bath, see how long you can stay in there. You'll get all the same benefits.
Yeah. But as one fun thing about cold thing is you don't want to be doing cold after your heavy strength sessions. Not cold alone anyway.
Why
so because what happens is your blood circulates, when you jump in an ice bath, the longer you go, the more blood flow starts going to your organs. It actually increases the blood flow to your organs to keep you alive. Your muscles don't get as much of a blood flow. It actually slows down the blood flow for your muscles.
Sure.
It does release those cold shock proteins. So if you followed a cold with a hot, so cold hot protocol and finish with a hot shower, that will then increase the circulation. The blood will go straight back to your muscles and stuff. But now it's got those cold shock proteins and heat coat. That's why you see a lot of people now getting into it. And I was actually just talking to, I forget his name. He was on the Spartan chat this week. They had. He was just up in Stanford. I was telling him about how I do hot and cold sessions.
Adrian Janenga.
Yeah, I was doing hot and cold sessions where I do, like, I've got myself a little hydroponic tent with a lamp and a heater in there. I'll do like 5 minutes in my ice bath, and then I'll do 15 minutes in that, and I'll do that 3 times over, sometimes 7, depending on how long I go for. And I'm constantly putting my body into different exposures, which is recovery for me, because it's getting both sides of recovery, which is heat and cold, circulation is changing, and it also just helps release different hormones and enzymes in my body.
Yeah, it's
so if you do that after,
for you.
But if you're doing that after a strength session, you're not, like, especially to build muscle, it's actually going to be counterproductive if you're not adding that heat factor.
Yeah. Okay. So cycling, I did the same. So at EMF Narang there, they've got mad saunas and steam rooms and cold plunge pools, and I'll cycle the sauna and the cold plunge pool. And I usually find, like, depending on how I want to walk out. So if I want to walk out like feeling refreshed and awake, I finish in the cold. But if I want to walk out feeling lethargic, I finish on the hot. But you're saying if muscle growth is a factor that I'm aiming for, then I should finish on the hot, because then I'm going to get the benefits from the increased circulation as I leave, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Oh. All right, I just learned something.
Mm.
Question here, is it good to get a massage on an inflammatory body part? I would usually say let the inflammation go down, treat the inflammation first before you try and massage. Thoughts, Mick? You
can do a light massage. So what that means is, and this is my old massage therapist gig coming out right now, because if you want to treat, like, if you've got some serious inflammation, stuff like that, some light massaging and that, where you're doing circle work to create superficial work on the area, basically will help increase blood flow and increase the healing factor for it. But yeah, you don't want to be going and getting yourself that deep tissue sport massage where they're breaking up the fibers. One, it's counterproductive. You're putting more stress on the body again, but you're also going to be a fuck ton of pain. So and that's even more sadistic than I'd go and stuff. So unless you've got a real need you want to just get some pain going on, then fine, go for it, have fun, but you're not really doing something good. Simple, get yourself some coconut oil, circle works, making sure you're just bringing the hands wherever you're starting from the base up to the heart, towards the heart. That'll be the best way to treat inflammation, getting a massage for inflammation. Anything more and you're asking for pain.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I like, if I'm super inflamed, I wouldn't jump on a roller or anything. I try to treat the inflammation first before you, like, you can do stretching. That won't hurt as much, but I'd avoid sort of massages directly. Somebody said I did a 50K run this morning, sitting in a magnesium bath now. Gaza. Yeah, magnesium's great. Epsom salt, all that type of stuff is good. Magnesium is the electrolyte that your muscle uses as the release of the contraction. So we've got a couple of different electrolytes that do different things in the muscles, and different electrolytes control the contraction. Magnesium controls the release. So that's why often a lot of anti-cramp products have magnesium in them, because it's a muscle relaxant. That's what's happening there. Another question: if you're time poor, what is the best all-encompassing recovery technique? Asked from Dominica, sitting in my lounge room. Are you time poor, Dom? She's watching American Barbecue. I don't think she's that time poor.
Hey, nothing wrong with American Barbecue. Love that stuff.
What are your thoughts, Nick? Best
Depending
bang for your buck.
So,
recovery.
Best bang for your buck, I would have to say I'm a big fan of the roller.
Mm-hmm.
It's simple, like even, and I know some people bash the roller, but you know, a lot of ups, like anything in the fitness industry, there's a lot of, everyone's got their own little opinion. Me, really simple, like if you know what you're doing with it, perfect. Even if you don't, just rolling up there is still going to give you some form of release and stuff like that. I would most times I would prefer someone to. Yeah.
Sorry, you go. We're on a bit of a lag.
Yeah.
So
I would prefer people. Yeah, I would prefer people to be on the roller than before stretching, only because most people don't have the mentality to relax in the stretch. They still approach it like I've got to hit the position. It's like people trying to get below parallel on their squats, but their body's not designed for that or something, and they try to force it. Whereas the roller, roll up and down, move on, minute or two on each thing. You can do a whole body in about 5 minutes, and that is still like that is your best go-to, combined with breathing, of course.
I think you can. I've seen people who aren't rolling particularly well. Like you can fuck that up. So you want to at least have some idea of what you're doing when you're rolling. You don't want to go too hard, too fast with the roller. Like it shouldn't be sadistic. It shouldn't just be about pain. It's not going to be super comfortable. But if you're on there, I say the same thing that one of my old yoga instructors says in like yin, which can be a little bit uncomfortable. If you can't smile, then you're doing it wrong. And rolling's the same. Like it's gonna be pretty uncomfortable. Sometimes you hit spots where you're like, "Fuck, that's tight," but you still should be able to smile. Otherwise, you're probably biting off a little bit too much. Would you say, Mick, that?
Yeah, well, for me, I do breathing.
Yeah.
If you can't breathe, you can't.
Yeah.
You don't own it.
If you can't control your breath, sure. Yeah. So, and what we mean there is if you can keep your breath, deep nasal breathing, you're in control. If you find yourself all of a sudden breathing fast, going into that fight or flight, trying to get away from the pain, you're probably going a little bit too hard. Would you say that rolling is basically just massage that you're doing yourself?
Yep.
So massage is another good recovery tool.
Yeah. Massage is a great recovery tool. Again, but it is still, depending on the massage, it can also still be sort of a workout. So, like the difference between, I know some people like, and this is one of the reasons why I stopped doing regular massage, stopped being a massage therapist, was because people will get massages and they want that relaxing, chill time. And when you have to massage a person doing that, it is so boring. Like gun to the head.
Yeah.
There. But with a sport massage where you actually have to get into the fibers, these things are like workouts.
Yeah.
So again, they're still causing stress by breaking up the muscle fibers and getting blood circulation into it. So again, with certain massages, you don't want to overdo it either. No. This is it's a good, but I regularly use massages to help quickly treat certain issues for people. There's a few times I've broken out and dropped to do a few massages while I'm on the race course for a few calves and stuff that have just started cramping and need release. So it is a great thing. And rollers are your own personal massage.
What are your
besides getting those massage guns?
Yeah, well, that's where I was going to go. What are your thoughts on the massage guns, like the Theragun, and there's a couple bouncing around. My PT was into my traps on Friday with it, and it's interesting.
I love them. They're the bang. They're really good. The best thing about them, though, is if you can, when you're getting it done, do some movement at the same time. So if you're doing your traps and stuff like that, do some like moving your hands around while it's getting that. If you're getting your quads, extend and flex the knee while you're doing your quads. If you can create movement while getting that done, it's like gold standard, because what that's doing is it's actually not only helping the muscle to relax because it's in this constant open, close, but it's also letting it realize when it's gaining these new further range of motion because the muscle's relaxing and releasing more.
Yeah.
So it's increasing the blood flow instead of just getting bashed.
Yeah, we do.
So I love them.
I like trigger point release stuff where you'll be like lying on a ball on your back and you'll be sort of moving your arm up and over to sort of floss those muscles over the point that you're releasing.
Yeah. And yeah, again, flossing, I love flossing. That's part of it. It's also the flossing's if you've ever seen, have you ever heard of something called voodoo floss? Have you used that before?
Is that the tape shit that you put on?
Yeah, like the rubbery band stuff. That is, again, great for the structural side, because when you use that on your joints and stuff like that, it can actually relieve the tension in the joints. The amount of times I've used it to sort of give my knee a little bit of a breather, my elbows and stuff like that, it's second to none. It's great.
Yep. Cool. Somebody's asked best recovery for displaced ribs, pulled muscles around them and around the facet joint. Super specific for me. I don't know enough about the area to advise. It sounds like a pretty specific medical condition. You got anything there, Mick?
Basically, you're in for a long one. Unfortunately, the only way, the problem with the ribs is the same problem you have with the feet. Okay, recovery for the feet is so hard because the circulation's so far. Ribs, they're in constant use, unfortunately. They are one of the things that take a lot longer to heal, because especially with the ribs part, it's a very structural thing. Again, breathing is probably the only best thing you can do for it, because you've got to learn to just relax with it if you're constantly keep it tight. But unfortunately, yeah, that's just one of those areas that if you get some shit done there, that sucks, because you got a long haul. You're just going to have to recover, treat it right, but realize that you're going to be in a bit of pain for a bit.
Yeah, I tore the cartilage between my ribs and my sternum years ago, probably 10 years ago now, maybe even a little bit longer. And that just took a long time. Just breathing hurt and laughing for like 6 months later hurt. Yeah, it's just a bitch of a place to hurt. Let's have a look at a few more questions. So it was Gaza talking about the cryo.
Yeah.
He says he's been looking other options. Well, that's the one we've already answered. Andrew Nance here, a couple other people. Andrew says cold showers, are they as effective as cold baths? I think so. Mick?
Yeah. Yeah, like, you could probably, depends on, Queensland cold waters, not really, it's not that cold.
It's like lukewarm.
But it is still,
lukewarm shower. You've
got to look at the recovery of, like, when you do recovery in, like, cold showers versus ice baths, I'm always going to say ice baths are better, but let's face it, cold showers are a lot easier to get to and cost a lot less because you don't have to pay for that ice. I mean, unless you got a freezer like I do, which, hey, if anyone wants to know, I'll show them my freezer plan one day if they want. It's very easy to set up. But, yeah, I've got a freezer that sits out there at, like, 0.5 degrees that I'll hop in. So that's my nice little, it's full of water, and it's like you got to break the ice to get in. That's better than a cold shower. Yeah. But in the fact that you can always get to a cold shower, that is really good, because a cold shower is good, especially if you do the whole 1 minute cold, 3 minutes hot and stuff and cycle through that, then that's a really good way to recover and have access to.
For sure. For sure. And there's a lot of benefits to doing this cold plunging, even if you're not just doing it for recovery as such. So from an inflammation standpoint, whenever we overwork the muscles, we create too much stress and we get too much inflammation, which is usually your DOMS, and your body repairing the damage that you've done. Anything that we can do to get that inflammation out is going to help you get back to normal faster, and cold is going to help that. But on its own, like, you could be doing cold plunging daily, not from a recovery standpoint, just for the great effects it has on your immune system and your mental resilience. Like, there's plenty of good reasons to be doing that. Mick, you can talk a long time about cold plunge therapy. What are the three biggest reasons you'd recommend somebody do it?
One, I think we all got to. It's a great way for, as you said, your mental. So Cold's really good, cold showers and stuff like that first thing in the morning, because it fires up your central nervous system, gets you that instant fight and flight. So you're consciously awake, you're suddenly forefront awake, you're like, oh shit, it's cold, I'm awake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So you've got that. The fact that it can actually help you get out of a really bad sleep cycle, which is really good to wake you up. So it's good on the central nervous system. It fires it up, makes sure you're at your very best to start with. It's, as you said, inflammation for recovery and stuff like that. I also just love it because we live in a comfortable world, so it's great to build up resilience when you're actually putting yourself into the cold. As I tell people and as I said, when I first started getting you to try and do those cold showers again, I said, how long did that first one take you just to turn on the tap when you got up first thing in the morning and say, I'm going to have this cold shower? Yeah. It's the longest, 5 minutes you've had, and people are like, you haven't even hopped in the shower yet because you're like, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And that's what I love about the mental state too, and it builds the resilience of it all. I mean, I love it, and anyone that's followed me for ages knows I'm upset that winter's gone, because I was out on my porch every morning having a coffee in my boardies, and it would be like -5, -10 here.
Yeah.
And I would just be having that coffee and a beanie on, and I mean, hell, half the time people thought I came from the beach when I was walking downtown.
Yeah.
Because I just built that immune system. Yeah.
Super good for you. Dom gets nauseous in flotation tanks. Yeah, I'm not a fan. I just get too bored. I just lay in there and I'm like, fuck, can something happen? Gaz has said,
it could be.
What's that? Nicky?
Well, that could be the whole floating thing. She might just not like the unbalanced and the equilibrium. Best way you can do is an old trick. Yeah. So basically, one thing you can do if you have that issue is leave one hand to the side, holding on to wall or foot. Kind of the old tricks you used to do with, well, I know I used to do when I was a little younger and having a few too many drinks and stuff like that. I'd put the foot down to the edge of the bed so the room would stop spinning. Same thing, really stops, really helps.
Cool.
But yeah, that'll help with that. Yeah, basically.
Cool. Gaz says, thanks, Mick. I've been doing hot and cold therapy. I'm up to 4 minutes by 5 each at the moment. Yeah, good stuff.
Okay, well, Gary, change that. You want to do a 1-to-3 ratio. 1 minute of whatever the one is for cold, do 3 times the amount for hot.
Okay, good info.
No,
I
that's
think
a better way.
Probably off the top of my head, I'm usually about 5 minutes in the sauna for like a minute in the cold bath. Or as long as I can tolerate the cold bath, which is probably a minute, 90 seconds maybe. So
we're going to get that up.
Yeah, I know you've been teasing that for a while. Andrew says, how many days a week, especially with Spartan training, runs and strength training? It's different for everyone, right? It's different to your level of conditioning. Look at the guys who are on the Matt Fraser, Tia that you said earlier. They probably work 365 days of the year. But recovery is such a big part of their life. So it comes down to how much time do you have? What level are you? How experienced at training are you? And how much can your body tolerate? Like I usually don't have a specific rest day. Like I'll go 7 days a week, but my day today might have been a couple of K walk. Like it was nothing crazy. I might go for a light ride this afternoon. I think you've just got to play it by ear. If you find you're waking up and you're fucked and you don't feel like training and you're tired and you're feeling weak, you're probably overtraining, or you're not sleeping well enough, or you're not eating well enough. What do you think, Mick? Do you have like a specific formula for rest?
Basically, resting days, it goes on how heavy your intensity is. You've got to go on an intensity scale. Like, I know some guys, they'll train 2-3 times a week at most, even for Spartan races, but those days are so jam-packed that they need the 48 hours to recover and stuff like that. Whereas you've got a lot of people like Andrew Patmore then that they keep theirs at a nice, consistent level that you don't actually peak too high, so you don't actually go too hard in a session, so you can literally train nearly every day and still see incremental gains due to the fact that it's aggressive overload but not going too extremely hard. And it comes down to your programming too, it depends if it's a deload week or is whatever your coach has put you on.
Yeah, I think like I think you can program as good as you can program,
Yeah.
but ultimately what I try to teach any of my athletes is learn to understand what your body's telling you. Learn to understand the signs when you are overtraining, or potentially if you're not going hard enough. Like if you feel fucking amazing every day, you can probably up it a little bit. You know, if you feel flat all the time, then there's something wrong happening, whether it's you're not getting enough sleep or you're working too hard. But if you can increase that brain-body connection and learn to understand your body signals, you're going to do well. Dom says she's actually stretching and foam rolling watching this. She'll go back to American Barbecue later.
Oh, good.
Matty Probes is here. Corey says loves his Theragun. Helps him bounce back quicker, which is good. Someone said 6 months. Oh no,
I think that's the red person.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Look, it sounds like something super specific. I'd probably see a physio about that. Candace has said, how can you tell if you're getting enough sleep that allows your body to readily repair, or allows your body to really repair, rather? Everyone says 7 to 8 hours, but I still feel exhausted with that. I'd sleep 10 hours if I could. Obviously, that's not possible. Thoughts? It is fucking possible. It's probably not practical. But I think, and I did a bit of research on this a while back because I was trying to work out how do you sleep less, right? It just really annoyed me that I was losing a third of my life asleep. So I thought if I could sleep less, like if I could sleep 4 hours less a night, I could get so much fucking more done. But you're pretty much fucked. You've got what you've got. Some people need 7 hours, some people need 8, some people need 9. 7 to 9 is sort of the sweet spot. Some people naturally get up earlier, some people naturally go to sleep earlier. And you've sort of got what you've got. What are your thoughts on sleep, Nick?
Well, I'm going to sort of disagree with you on you've sort of got what you got. It's how you approach your sleep. So sleep is just like training. You've got to train it. And so like, because I enjoy sleeping. I did, I think, a whole year where I was only doing 3 hours a night. Mate, it's tiring. It's not the best, so it's good to sleep. But so when it comes to sleep, there is actually a lot of environmental factors that can have an influence, because when we're sleeping, if you've got your phone and all this stuff switch on and that, they're producing electrical signals that our body is actually picking up, which can stop us falling into those REM sleeps. If your breathing mechanics ain't quite on point and you're breathing through your mouth, again, that's going to cause you to be a quite shallow sleeper, which means everything's going to be waking you up. A lot of people, when they approach their sleep, they do the old, oh, I'm tired, I'm going to go to sleep. Instead, while they're watching TV or something like that, or having something that's a little stimulating. The shorter time you want to sleep, the more effort you need to put into hacking that sleep. And what I mean by hacking is like, so for me, when I was doing, because I was like working at 3 different gyms and stuff and being all over the place, when I was doing that year of just only getting about 3 hours, average 3 hours sleep, 3 hours sleep a night, I always had to go in, okay, the first hour before, I had to breathe and stretch. I would take some zinc and magnesium supplement, which really helps get you in a better sleep state. I would tape my mouth and have my nostril strips on to increase my nasal breathing. And I could do that. I was like 3 hours, I was up feeling like 100, feeling like $1,000,000. Now, bang, 100%. And then there was times when I didn't do that and you just feel terrible. These are like little things. So you can use tricks like melatonin and stuff can help those. But the thing is with all this, you want to try and keep it natural as possible, because even taking melatonin on the regular can actually make your body lazy producing its own melatonin. Melatonin is a drug in our body that really helps us get a better cognitive sleep, for those people that do not know. So with your sleeping, you've got to see what your approach is. Now, for me at the moment, I still do zinc. I still do my zinc and magnesiums when I've had a big session or even just a general session during the week, but I don't do it every day because it's like everything, you sort of want to cycle a bit so you're not dependent on it. But I stretch an hour before I go to bed just so I'm in that state of chilling out, relaxing. There is no electrical stuff when I go to bed. I've got an old sun lamp. And when I go to bed, before I go to bed, if I haven't planned to go and I'm starting to feel tired, I calculate every 90 minutes. And that's where I'll like be in every 90-minute interval to the closest time frame that I want to wake up.
Mm-hmm.
Reason I say 90 minutes is when we sleep, we do a 90-minute cycle. Yeah. So that way I'm either making, so everyone says 7 to 8 hours. It's actually 7.5 hours everyone likes is the maximum number, but it takes about 15 to 30 minutes for some people to get to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I've never set this down 5 minutes.
I think there's going to be variation in that cycle, so person to person.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be exactly 90 minutes. It's going to be close to that, but I think your cycle will change, and the best way to find that out is to get something like an Oura Ring or a sleep tracker or a Whoop band or something like that, or keep a sleep journal. I think if you were going to find that out with a sleep journal, you'd have to be pretty good at how you take down the data. But yeah, there's heaps of tech that you can learn your sleep cycles. But yes, so you plan that out. You plan out, so that you wake up in 90-minute intervals.
Yep.
Or you wake up after a certain amount of 90-minute intervals. Do you use an alarm or anything, Nick?
I've got a sun lamp alarm. So basically, this is a nice little cheap, I think it was just only $100, and lights. It's basically a rising sun of light in my room. But I usually, by the time it's at full exposure before the alarm actually goes off, I'm already awake and ready to go. I use this because it does mimic the light exposure you would normally get with a morning rise.
Yeah, which turns on the cortisol and is what tells your body to get out of bed. Cortisol is your body's stress hormone. And it's probably the thing that's fucking up most of us at the moment because we all have too much stress, but you need it. If you didn't have any cortisol, you'd just lay in bed until you shit yourself and died, right? It's what gets you up. It's what gets doing it. So blue light, that sunrise, is going to turn that cortisol on and tell your body it's time to wake up.
Yeah. The other good thing, if you really want to, the funny thing is, if you really want to maximize your melatonin productions so you sleep better, that morning sun, don't wear your sunglasses. Let your eyes get exposed to that first morning sun for the first 15.5 hours.
Oh, yeah?
That helps produce way more melatonin in the body to go to signal the cycle function so you can go back to sleep. So that will really help with getting better sleep. Whereas a lot of people now, we're leaving our homes, going to work and stuff. We've got our dark glasses on. If we're hungover, we've got our darker glasses on and stuff like that. And then you don't get any natural sun exposure. That's one of the other reasons why I was always out the front having a coffee, because I get a nice good morning sunrise that just shoots straight into my face, and I'm just getting my whole body with some sun and letting my eyes get exposed to it as well.
I fucking hate sun. Like, I've got blue eyes and like sunlight just kills me. If I go out and forget my sunnies, I've got a headache in 10 minutes. Like, I'll stop at a servo and buy sunnies. But I might try that. I might try walking over to the coffee shop in the morning with no sunnies on.
Yeah. Even if you just had them around your neck for the first 5 minutes and built up that tolerance, because, I mean, that could be also the thing. Your eyes might not be used to that exposure as much.
Sleep's super important. And I think I'm definitely inclined to agree with you that you can hack it, and you can, like, if you're somebody who you find that you sleep better off like 8.5 hours sleep. If you put all of these things in place to ensure that your sleep quality comes up, you don't have screens before bed. I don't charge my phone or anything in the room anymore. I keep them in another room. So if I don't respond to your messages at 10 at night now, that's because I don't have my phone on me. But I think if you're somebody who usually needs 8.5 hours, if you do all of these little things to increase the quality of your sleep, you might now be able to get away on 7. But you still need a certain amount of sleep, right? And sleep is so important that I think we should probably do a separate episode on it. But one thing that I will say from a recovery standpoint and from a getting ready for events standpoint is I find that I can bank sleep really well. So if I'm coming up to, say, a 24-hour enduro or a big event, if I get a couple of big nights sleep before it, I can go like a weekend hard out without suffering too much, and then at the end of that, I'll have like a 12-hour sleep, and that'll sort of reset me. Do you find you can sort of bank sleep and have big sleeps to recover as well, Mick?
Yeah, I mean, I put sleep up there bigger than stretching for recovery.
Yeah, I agree. I think anything you're looking to do, if you're looking to gain muscle, if you're looking to lose fat, sleep is so fucking important.
Oh yeah. And but yeah, for me, I'm sort of lucky because when I worked animation in games, I got to see what it was like not sleeping much. So I missed out on it to a point that one week we were doing a project, and me and my mate who were doing it, we got 5 hours sleep that entire week, 7-day week. And the body was shut down terrible.
Yeah, you start to hallucinate, see things and hear things.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, shit goes pretty fucking sideways.
Absolutely. I was surprised I didn't die. It was getting very, very bad. But yeah, so for me, like I've found, too, if I know I've got a big event on, sleep is the biggest important. Like I put sleep so far up there right now, I don't even go, when I go to events, I don't like to share them with people anymore because I want to control every aspect before the event and my sleep. And I found the only way I can control that is on my own.
Yep. Fair call.
Yeah.
Fair call. Corey says he functions excellent on 3 to 4, 5 to 8 is shit, and then after 8 is back to good again. So I think it's not necessarily like anything between 5 and 8 is shit. I think if you got like 6.5, you might be good, but 7 is bad. Like Mick was saying, if you wake up in the middle of your deep sleep cycle, you're fucked. Like you're like, ugh. But if you wake up out of REM when you're dreaming, you go straight to alert. So it's working out that cycle. Takes a lot of work to work it out though, unless you use some tech.
Absolutely.
I think that's probably enough about sleep. What are some?
Yeah, we're gonna have to do an episode.
Yeah, definitely, man. We've covered, and we've been going nearly an hour on this one, so we are trying to keep these relatively short. So we've spoken about massage, foam rolling, ice baths, sleep, inversions. We did touch on Epsom bath, magnesium salts, stuff like that, and we touched on active recovery as well. What are some other things? Stretching. Let's talk about
stretching. We talked about stretching.
Talked about stretching. How do you feel about warming up prior to exercise from a recovery standpoint?
From a recovery standpoint, warm-ups are important. It also depends on lifestyle for the warm-ups. So I don't normally warm up before my sessions because I've already gone on. First thing I do as a run is I get up and I just go for a straight 5K run in the morning. And that is my warm-up, but it's not a hard run stuff. That's how I start. That's how I like to warm up, and I warm up my body for the day. I'll do that, a little bit of flow movement, and then I just get into my sessions later on that day. But if you're getting up and you have a
sort of,
yeah, and that but your warm up is one of those crucial things to help with your recovery in anything, because a lot of injury happens when the body's not quite ready. If you've trained your body to be this point, you can get away with it more. But 9 times out of 10, people don't train it enough to have it ready at a little time. So you need to do something to warm it up, and you need to build it, progressive building, not just suddenly go, okay, stretch, let's sprint. All right. Like, as I said, my 5K run, it's not I'm going out and I'm going to make sure I'm holding this pace and stuff. Sometimes I'll just start walking, shaking things out, and then I'll slowly build as I go. But I also have limiters, and that's what a warm-up is. A warm-up should have limiters as well. Yeah. You shouldn't be, depending on the output you're going to put in and how big of work, again, like sleep and like everything else, and it's all about, you've got to play it by ear. Yeah. Worst thing that you could do, though, is too much mobility for your warm-ups.
Yeah?
Yeah. Because your body needs to develop. If you're training, and this is one thing I used to tell people, you don't want to be doing your too much of the mobility. Like I know guys are bad ankles. Even I was a bad point for this. Half an hour of like mobility work to get ready to train and stuff like that, especially if you're doing the functional fitness stuff, is actually counterproductive. You're loosening the body to a point that you can no longer build torque and tension, which will then inhibit your performance and also inhibit your recovery because your body's constantly getting in this too loosened state.
Yeah. So do your mobility after.
Yeah.
Cool. Candice has said food, which is a big one. Definitely. I would say from a recovery standpoint, two things are important with your nutrition. That you go into exercise with enough protein and enough carbs to do the work. And then after exercise that you replace those carbs and replace that protein so that you're not catabolizing muscles. Any thoughts, Mick? Have you got any specific pre-exercise, post-exercise recovery protocols with nutrition?
Yeah, again, like sleep, nutrition is another part of your training. You got to learn to develop it. I'm a big fan. As I tell people, the only reason I do my big crazy stuff where I'm running for hours and moving heavy logs and stuff like that is because I'm a fat kid at heart. I used to be really, really fat, and I still have that little kid there who just wants to eat food.
Me too.
One of the things I love about me Spartan races is on the way home from a Spartan race, I'm pulling into a 7-Eleven, I'm getting a pint of Ben & Jerry's, and I'm just going to town on that bad boy straight after it. Because as you said, it's getting those carbs or replenishing those sugars. And because that's also going to help the recovery. When you get those sugars, and this is where,
back in the muscles.
Yeah, it puts the glycogen back in the muscle. And the refined sugars in there actually helps accelerate the blood flow a little better because your body's getting that insulin response to it. And yeah, we'll combine that with a good protein shake and that, or just something with protein in it.
Yep.
Well, actually, even though Ben & Jerry's ice cream has milk in it, and that, or good ice creams have probably some milk in it. So basically, that's then got your first forms of proteins in it. But yeah, food is. I love food. If you're not doing this for food, why are you doing this?
Yeah, true. I've heard more than once. If you don't know what to have after like pretty big exercise, if you don't have protein shakes or anything, just have a chocolate milk. Like chocolate milk's just loaded with exactly what you need. It's got the proteins in the milk, and it's got just a lot of good sugar, and they'll just bounce you back pretty fast. So if you don't have protein shakes, if you don't have proper sports recovery stuff, chocolate milk's amazing.
Yeah, mate. The Broncos rugby team were on that for years. No.
Works well.
No.
And yeah, I definitely agree with you, Nick. It's nutrition and physical training are not two separate things. They are the same thing. No. They should be treated as the same thing.
Yeah, and nutrition, again, you want to optimize it. And this is where having a journal that talking about writing down stuff is the best thing you can do, is tracking yourself with your food. What sort of things do you have make you feel good the next day? What makes you feel a little bad? How's your recovery rate on certain things? Even changing your food composition by like going for a bit more fat base, doing a vegan cycle if you want, all those sort of things. These things help train your body's ability to adapt to different foods, which can then also give you different hormones and different enzymes out of foods, which again builds up that recovery profile a lot better.
Yep. Cool. So super important. One thing that we were talking about, just to go off a bit of a tangent, but just a note that I saw from myself earlier. A lot of people I know, and I'll do it as well, after big events, popping Nurophens and Tarans.
Anti-inflammatories.
So we spoke, so non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. We were talking about, inflammation in the muscle, and that's usually what DOMS is, and we want to get rid of that. We don't want to have too much inflammation because then we can't get back to being able to massage and stretch and get back to normal activity. But if you're taking Nurofen or Voltaren or painkillers, it's really going to it's going to be very counterproductive to any muscle growth or anything like that. So you really want to stay away from that. You can create some serious blood pressure problems. I know, and when I first got into this sport of doing crazy shit, I used to like preload, front load anti-inflammatories going into an event because I knew that I would get inflammation in my ankles and my knees, because I just didn't know any better. And then as I got into it a bit more, learned a bit more and went, that's pretty fucking bad. But if you can find like natural anti-inflammatories, things like curcumin, turmeric, stuff like that, they're going to really help. Do you have anything that you supplement as an anti-inflammatory, Nick?
Well, I always put turmeric and curcumin and all that sort of stuff in my foods. I try to keep it very more on a regular basis so my body's used to them and stuff. On race day, I try to stick away from any of that sort of stuff because your body still has to recover anyway. And I'm a big thing. If my body's going to go through it, I want my mind to go through it with it. I don't like to sort of take those things to make it comfortable and easy. I mean, that's just how I am. But yeah, I, again, like to look more on the natural side, but I like to think of it more of how do I make these things more regular as well. If you can't do these things on the regular of your daily, like at least semi-daily or a bit of the weekly sort of stuff, if you can't incorporate them in a more natural way that you can do regularly, do you really want to be just slamming them for your race day? Because in the end, you're only going to fall back to where you're training yourself. You can train your body and take good things to take care of it. It's going to give you a better performance output and a better recovery output rather than just, I'm going to start taking on this crap on race day.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Aside from that, about the only other main point that actually compression. What do you feel about compression? Like compression leggings and tights, compression tops. How do you feel about compression?
Love them. Think they are definitely worth it. Again, that was something I don't use a lot during my racing, but I actually use it a lot when I'm sleeping. And that, because I find they're really great because they're compressing the body, help supporting circulation and everything. I find if I did those, and I used to, when I was really heavy into my functional fitness training and was doing some big training loads, I'd go to bed fully clothed in these skins and everything and wake up feeling like $1 million the next day. And so I always found they were very helpful for that.
Yeah. About the only ones I'd go to sleep with on are probably calf sleeves. I've done a couple of times. If I've had like races with heaps of vert and my calves are just thrashed, I'll throw some calf sleeves on. But yeah, I find it helps.
Yeah, definitely. I used to go the full long sleeve, long pants one. My wife, one of those things I did that my wife thought I was weird at the time. Understood why I was doing it, but still thought I was a weirdo.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, I don't use them for race day stuff. I find the compression of keeping things compressed on race day can actually be quite counterintuitive because you want to get that circulation to get through a bit as well.
Okay, cool. I tend to, I go in and out of phases. Sometimes I'll wear compression for ages and then I won't wear it for ages and then I'll wear it again. I think a lot of it's placebo. I think it, like, I've heard 2 times you guys say that from a performance standpoint, it's very minimal. It's like 1% improvement, they reckon. But I think a lot of it is placebo. You've got it on and you think it's making you better, so therefore you are fucking better. Like your mind's really, really powerful. That type of stuff. So compression's good. Last one is probably another big one. Hydration. Super, super important to stay hydrated and rehydrate after events. Any points on that, Nick?
Yeah, again, hydration up there. But again, also playing with your hydration because we get caught on this whole doing water and stuff like that. But even too much water can be counterproductive for the body. When you drink too much water, your body will only absorb so much.
Yeah.
So this is why
people have died in marathons because they've drunk too much water.
Because they've gone into water loading. Like if you, I don't know, I've worked with a couple of powerlifters, and when they used to do cutting, they would actually drink so much water that their body would just suddenly just run, because it constantly was thinking it was getting all this water, it would then just flush the body out extremely to the point that it would make them very lean and very light going into their weigh-ins and stuff like that. So, and that's probably what could happen at marathon. That marathon is because, yeah, you have so much water that your body goes to a point that we don't need to absorb any of this, just start throwing it out, but then it doesn't switch it off. It's just opened up the tap and forgot to flick it back off when you were done. Yeah. This is why electrolyte drinks are really great, not just because they taste better as well, but because they change the composition of the water a bit to the point that there's other materials in it. The body starts absorbing them and gets more water in than it previously did. Yeah. So that's why it's always good to chuck in a bit of salt and everything. Me, I like I get some stuff with some little sugars in it, like some cluster. It's called a cluster dextrose that I've got that I'll have in my camel pack, and I'll fill a full 2-liter camel pack with this stuff in it. So I've constantly got that something in my body when I'm doing my bigger events.
Yep.
And
I
with hydration,
tailwind or something like that.
Yeah. And then with the nutrition, again, you've got to train, you've got to know, sort of play on how your body feels. And also look at the environment you're in. Let's take the race that's coming up. It's going to be hot in Queensland when the race comes up. So you're going to need more, especially if you're a heavy sweater.
Yep, definitely. GC Spartan, end of November on the Gold Coast. So it'll be summer. On the Gold Coast, it's going to be fucking hot. It could be 40 degrees.
Close to, yeah.
Could be. And humid. So, yeah, you're definitely going to want to have your hydration sorted pre-event, during event, and post-event. It's going to be super important.
Absolutely.
Man, any other points about recovery? I think the biggest ones that we had were sleep. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. Make sure you're getting enough. Make sure your food's on point as far as protein and carbs back in. Hydration. I think probably active recovery is another really big one.
Yeah.
And then maybe your foam rolling massage would probably be the big ones.
Yeah. Basically, with it, you got to sort of pick what you can do. But again, it's just like everything, just like training too much, and that can eventually cause rhabdos. Stretching too much can have a negative effect. You've got to focus on the things you can do and make them consistent. It's just like your training's got to be consistent. Make your recovery consistent. Yeah. Otherwise, your body's not going to learn how to recover. It's not going to help your body recover faster at all. It's just going to be another shock. It's just like, as you said, doing yoga. Suddenly doing yoga ain't going to be the best session for you. But if you're regularly doing it, especially the ones you do on your weekends with everyone, then yeah, you'll find that it can be a great part, but it's got to be something that's more consistent you can do.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys, thanks for joining us today for another episode. We'll tie it off there. We've probably got a couple of things that we spoke about today that will turn into future episodes. I think definitely we'll go down the sleep rabbit hole.
Oh yeah.
I think we might talk about hydration as well. We're certainly going to be talking about nutrition in future, and maybe a few other things as well. We might do an ice bath specific episode, perhaps potentially with both of us in ice baths. Maybe.
Yes.
That'd be fun.
I got mine ready.
All right, guys. We'll catch you all next week. Just a reminder, we do have the Spartan Bootcamp series happening the 1st of next Saturday in the morning in Kurrawa Park, which is about a kilometre from my house. We'll be running the Bootcamp series for Spartan coming up to Spartan GC. Nick, do you have anything exciting happening this week?
No, nothing for me at the moment. It's just a little more research and stuff. Just being a geek.
Cool. All right, and as usual, guys, I've got that Spartan content coming out, so always happy to get feedback on what you guys want to see from me. I know Nick's very much the same, so if you guys tell us what you want to see, and we'll make it happen. Heaps of thank yous coming in from Andrew, both Andrews and Corey. All right, catch you guys. See you, Miko.
Hey guys.